Hi, Lee. How are
Hello,
you?
Dr. Colin.
I'm so happy. There's no delays now. We're doing fine. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to steal you in the middle of the night like this, but I seriously
Fine.
needed to have you for this conversation as a dear friend and as somebody that I appreciate so much. I love the way that you think, and I think you're going to do justice to the conversation that you're going to be talking about. Yeah, Pilot, how has the day been like for you?
The day has been interesting. I've been having a lot of technological yeah, I've been having a lot of technological troubles in my other spheres of life. But I'm actually very, very good. Rested. Yeah, looking forward to a conversation. I hope I add value.
I know you will. I know you will. Um, You do quite a number of things. I've even noted down here. You are on radio. I need you
Yes.
to just tell me, yes, you are right. You're on radio. Sometimes you're on TV. You'll correct me, but I think I've seen you on Newsroom Africa. Yes. Um, you are very much into fashion. I mean, whoever doesn't know you, if they go on your Insta page, this is something that's gonna flesh out. It's quite evident. And quite recently, you were on Ukozi FM talking about fashion with Salbi, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I remember. You see, I'm keeping track. You're an attorney.
Yeah,
What else don't I know about you?
so I'm trained as a lawyer. The major part of my education is in the legal fraternity and jurisprudence. Um, I then went off and worked in property and asset financing for a particular bank. And then I got bored of that, so I went into consulting at a big consulting firm. And then I left. I left because I just got over the boredom. But sometimes I do some legal advising, some legal consulting. Um, I'm a firm believer that you need to maximize all of your talents, your primary, your secondary, your tertiary, and everything that follows. And so I do everything I can, also because I like money.
I think you're like me. This
Yeah.
other friend of mine likes calling me Jack of all trades, master of none. I think you and
Yeah.
I are on the same boat.
I always say jack of all trades and master of some. Not all, but some.
I'll take that. I'll steal that. So, our previous speaker, our previous guest,
Yes.
left you a question without knowing that they would be leaving this question for you. Actually, they left three questions, but because you're on the other
Okay.
side, I'm gonna have to select for you.
Oh my word.
Usually, you would get the privilege of selecting your own questions.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm ready.
Yes. So the question that's been chosen for you is, do you believe in love?
Yes, I do. I believe in love emphatically. I believe that love is possibly, Maya Angelou is one of my favorite poets, and she said something that stuck with me when she was having one of her many chats with Oprah. And she said that love might just be the reason why our blood flows in the direction it flows in the veins and why stars stay up in the sky. It's that force that we can't define. It's that thing that makes us know that we're human, that we're part of an ecosystem of humanity. So I believe in love completely. I also believe in the toxicity of love because love can be quite toxic.
Beautiful. Wow.
Hmm?
I wish I could say such about
I'm full
love.
of them.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, I'm not as clued up as you are about love, and you'll get to see why as we have this conversation because it's very much grounded on love relationships, but also I think what is important for me, knowing you and as a good friend, is
Yeah.
your spiritual journey, and it's something I really want to talk about, and I want to marry that with love.
Okay.
And I think to kickstart this conversation, I want to know about your journey, your ubungoma. How did it happen? I mean, you're a
Oh,
fashionista.
that's a very interesting part of my life, and it revolves around really not knowing that I had a gift and having to almost fall into it. I think what we do very much as Black people is that we're going through this new resurgence, and so many of the things we're doing are foreign to us because we've moved from being people who practice our spiritual beliefs, our native spiritual beliefs, and then we were then modernized and westernized, right? Even during the times of apartheid. And then coming out of that, we're still not trying to like reform our identity. And so when I went into my training, it was because things in my life were just being a bit chaotic and misaligned. And it's wonderful how God and Amadlozi will put people around you to make sure that you can sort of find your path. And I believe that's what happened. I found my path, and then it led me to having to um, really fall into this gift. What people don't understand about the gift of ubungoma is that it's it's not a gift that is foreign to the being that you are. So you're an intellectual, for instance, you're a deep thinker, but you're also quite quirky. You really take the humanity of people very close to you. And so if you were to have the gift, and I believe we all have the gift in varying forms, the gift would be very idiosyncratic to you. It would be very aligned to who you are. And so you find Udamadlozi Akho would speak in the way you speak, would think in the way you think, because you are of them and they are of you. So I think what we've done is we forget that we all have a gift that we need to translate, and that mine just happened to require me to go through this training for one reason or another. And I can't say I enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed the the panel beating, as it were, that it gave me, because I think I am a better person because of it.
Beautiful. You speak about God Namadlozi in one
Yeah.
of the statements there.
Yes.
And what's the relationship between the two forces? Because I grew up in a Christian family, an Anglican slash Lutheran family.
Yeah.
And what we grew up knowing is that anything that has to do with Amadlozi is anti-God.
Yeah.
And as I grow up, what I've learned over the years is that there's some sort of a link between the two, but I still can't tell what the link is. What's the relationship between God, as we know him, as we are taught at church, and Amadlozi, our ancestors?
Yeah. Well, I really believe that we misinterpret how the divine forces interact with each other. In our minds, we think like if you practice, like, say you read tarot cards, right? We think that you are divorced from Christianity. You are separate. You are a different, field of study altogether. And I believe in the interconnectivity of things. So I believe that God does not necessarily have, because he is he's omnipotent and benevolent, but I also think that he's a pragmatist. He's a business person. He, she, they, whatever the pronoun is. In that, who are the people who know you best? Are the people who share your lineage, your bloodline, right? And the best way for you to understand in depthly where you come from is by looking at your forefathers, generations before you, and be able to formulate your identity. And I believe that your ancestors are placed in place to almost be intermediaries, to be able to um, be gifted a certain level of divinity, to be able to assist you on this side because they know who you are, and they're able to, in your language, in your tribe, in your custom, be able to give you that spiritual and maybe religious comfort. What I mean by that is, I don't believe that idlozi lakho lakwaXwabe elumZulu would translate very well to a white woman from Amsterdam, right? It's just too removed. So why don't we have someone who's Dutch from the Netherlands, who is part of her lineage, to speak to her in the way that they do? Some people call them guardian angels. Some people call them, your guides. I just think that our custom has been in Africa to commune with amadlozi. So they're not there to replace God. In fact, I think they are a channel for us to be able to take our grievances to him or them or they. And they're there to assist in giving clarity on things, because their spirits, of course, are closer to the other side than they are to this side. It's a complex conversation. I think it's one that, as I go older and I get stronger in spirit, I realize that I'm refining, but still not sure exactly where it will end. But I'm comfortable in that mang phahla, I'm paddling to talk to them, to discuss as we would as a family. And then when I pray to God, that's where I, the maker, the person who understands this malarkey of humanity.
That's a very interesting point, where you just ended. You find Christians, for starters, you find
Yeah.
Christians that practice izinto zesintu. They believe in ancestors, bayaphahla and whatnot. But I always ask myself, because when you go to umsamo, you light candles, you light imbepo, and you then say, Nina Bokwabe Omguno Pagatwayo, and you say all these surnames, and then you call your forefathers by their names. Omkhulu abangasekho nogogo osibanibani. I can't name mine, unfortunately, because I don't know them.
Yeah, all of them.
But but how do you do it when you are a Christian person? Or if it's somebody like you, I believe that I don't know, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I do think you're a Christian or you believe in God. Do you first say Mvelingangi and then you follow by calling Ogogo Nomgulu?
So I've learned, so in Mang Twasa, I was told that when you pray, you shouldn't mix it namadlos. And for me, it felt like how are you telling me that when I cook, I shouldn't use salt and pepper. For me, it seemed like they were one and the same. Okay. And I feel that what Christians don't understand is that a very big part of Christianity, and organized religion in general is, so the Bible and the Quran and the Torah did not come to earth by facsimile, right? They didn't come by email or by courier. God had to speak to someone, or it had to be translated, or whatever it is. But that also means that it was bastardized at some point. At some point, there were people who added things and took away things that weren't necessarily meant to be there. There's an old thing in Christian folklore about the Council of Nicaea that took place just as, paganism was declining in Rome. And there was a boy who was born somewhere who was Jewish, and he was performing miracles, and his name was Jesus, and people were starting to follow him. And the Emperor Constantine at the time decided that he would then organize all of organized religion to make sure that we can then start managing the story of Jesus Christ, so that he could still be pragmatic and be the king and manage, the thing. And so my point about that story is we forget that there's always been a fight for power. Ever since there's been one true God, there's been people who are willing to kill in his name. And so Christians continue to perpetuate that if it's God or nothing else, not being open and available to the point that, and I love how you started this conversation about love, right? Because I still believe that if all else fails, if you understand, if Islam doesn't understand Judaism and Judaism doesn't understand Christianity, or we understand love. Love knows no difference. A mother's love to a child is similar everywhere in the world. And that should be what is universal. And if you are a Christian or Patlayo, then go on. It's how you practice your brand of Christianity. I think the biggest mistake Christians have made is think that Christianity is uniform. And it can never be.
They think that Christianity is what?
Uniform. It's every Christian prays the same.
Yeah.
And experiences the same. I mean, look at how even in Christianity and organized religions, the Catholics are very different from the St. John's and the Methodists and the Zionists and but they all call themselves Christian. They all pray to this Jesus Christ and to this God.
Definitely. Lee,
Yeah.
you will remember that in one of our conversations not so long ago, I told you that I had a session with a medium. Now,
Yes.
this is in my head, somebody that I had never met, um, somebody that I believe is as gifted as your Zangomas, as your witches, as your whoever,
Hmm.
that has some sort of energy, different energy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's your take on mediums? I think they use crystal balls. I think they use cards and dice.
Yeah.
What's your take on them?
I think the biggest hack that we are to understand about God and how he operates is that he's got a wonderful sense of humor and he actually likes chaos. That's my opinion, right? I say that
Mhm.
because mediums are exactly an example of why it must be clear that God, whoever they are, is a bit of a jokester. Because mediums are no different from Isangoma. I think I made the example to you about Harry Potter, right? And I said to you, the whole premise of Harry Potter is that the magic is within you, in your body. It
Yeah.
is in you. You're born with it, in every cell in your body. The only difference is that I use a wand to channel the magic out of me. You use bones to channel the magic out of you. Tarot readers read tarot, palm readers read palms, mediums read whatever they read. And so I believe mediums are just people who get messages in different ways to how we would get them. In the same way I trust Amatambo, who, I mean, what is the science behind that? Um, in the same way you trust a vision or you trust a dream, what's different? How's that different to someone who tells you what they're seeing in their mind, in their hearts, in their spirit? So I've consulted a few mediums, I think two, three in particular. Yeah, three I remember. And they were spot on. And whether they
Mm.
are, snake oil salesmen or what, but I really believe that they just have a different version of what do we do.
Okay. Interesting. Because that lady said quite a lot of things. I
Yeah,
can't say them here now, but
we had a long
we
conversation
had this
about them.
conversation. We had this conversation. It was actually a very interesting thing. And
Mm,
it's just so fascinating how they could be spot on about things. They literally tell you what is happening in
mm,
Biloniaco and what is likely to happen, and they paint these scenarios. And when you connect the dots, you seriously see that these are things that are happening. These are things that are likely to happen because they
yeah,
even mention people's. They give you people's descriptions. Like in my
yes.
case, you know who they gave me, but I won't say it because we're gonna be we're gonna post
Dude.
this and it's gonna be shared publicly. Similarly, um, I had a gentleman coming to me, Uisango Maena, and he literally just told me, first time we meet each other, we see each other, he literally just told me, Uti, this is the situation, Ekaya. You are here, but you're not supposed to be here. La
Yeah.
Opuma Kona, you got along very well with so and so, but in
Mm,
the past 3 months, izinto ziveleza dungeka nje. And
mm,
the reason why this happened is because of one, two, and three. Again, sorry, I
yeah.
cannot say all these things in
Yeah,
detail online.
absolutely.
And then one Jalutik paneling ngenzeni.
Mm,
And after I did those things, funny enough, and with the permission of my elders, Ekaya,
mm,
I saw the value of doing what he was advising on. But then
mm,
herein lies a problem. The very same
Yeah.
person who is a sangoma, who is gifted ngobungoma, could be a witch, don't you
Yes.
think?
Absolutely. I think we, as with everything, there's two sides. I think that in the world there are forces of light and darkness that are operating at all times, and I think you choose which one to draw power upon, you know.
Mm.
There is a polarity of energy, in my opinion, and I don't even think that it's a witchcraft thing. I don't think it's like you go and you mix potions and whatever. I think it just even having ill will, you know, ubuntu-ka bungamthandi, being envious, being jealous, those kind of emotions are themselves witchcraft because what you're putting into the universe, into to the world, is this very negative energy. And that also means Guti, then, you know, you are adding to the imbalance.
Mm.
So, which is Angoma nazo. And you know what the issue is? That we must also remember there's a very big distinction ubungoma between the flesh and idlozi, as in being in spirit, you know, whether you are
Mm.
in trance or you are having visions or whatever. Because we expect of you in spirit to be very different to yourself in the flesh. We expect of you to not be lustful, to be humble, and the whole training of ubungoma is there to teach you to humble yourself, um, where you don't know who the superior power is, you know. There's a reason why when we meet you and we see you estradeni siyakuthokozisa, we're not greeting you, we're greeting your ancestors and humbling ourselves physically. You know, we kneel down and humble ourselves in front of you and your ancestors because we realize that you carry this lineage. It's why I hated when people call me by my surname. You know, that's hey Danzi. You know, I went to a boys' school and hey Danzi was always a thing. I just hate that because you don't realize how many people you're calling Ontanzi. Baninga Ontanzi Pel. My great grandfather was Ontanzi, and
Yeah.
you're now just calling me more Papa. So yes, ubuthakathi buningi, even from people who say they are working in light, because unfortunately we don't audit ourselves. We don't realize that energy is constantly moving and changing, and sometimes we're the agents of change.
Okay. I observe quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have seen this as well. And
Mm.
Leroy, if you look
Yes.
around, we've got a lot of people that are
Mm.
becoming izangoma.
Yes.
I've had abantu that come to me saying that when unabantu abadala or
Mhm.
something along those lines, and they would say, "Fanele uhambe uye maybe emanzini or kufanele uhambe uyobona ugobela or
Mm.
uyophahla." They use different terms, like it's been a number of people really. And my thing then is, why kuzoqhamuka uLeroy, somebody that I don't know, telling me these things? I could be in Gauteng, somebody's gonna come. I could be in Port Elizabeth, somebody's gonna come, or Hoedspruit for that matter. Somebody's gonna say the same thing. And I don't know, I worry. Because when I was doing literature in my early days, I was we were taught by somebody who is an expert in these things. Eti, you don't listen to whoever ozokutshela lezi zinto. Whereas if they're gonna say, we are going to take you, sihambe nawe, and sikwenze wenze u-1 no-2 no-3. If they tell you that you're supposed to be that, kuphelela lapho, somebody else is going to be shown to you, and then maybe that person would have to take you to Empopomeni or something. But uzomkhonjiswa, it's not a person ozoti, I can actually take you there. And what's the other point I wanted to raise? I'm forgetting. But I just worry that with all this ancestral calling thing, abantu take others for granted nowadays. What has been your observation there, and what's your experience?
So as you were speaking, I made 4 points, and I hope they will make sense. So let's talk about why it's becoming more prevalent, in my opinion, for abantu Pasanje generally, and we'll go into the minutiae of other things. I think, as you know very much of our recent history, and we come from a time of complete and utter, dehumanization, torture. I even believe apartheid to be classified as a genocide, crime against humanity, if what have you. And so there was a time where we had to disconnect. Migrant labor made us move to Joburg, to move to Cape Town, to move to the big cities. And so we left home, and we left home unattended, and we left the family structure completely disrupted. And by family structure, I don't mean mom, dad, and 2 kids and a dog. I mean family structure as in people who you trust, who are your kin, people who you grew up with, your family members, your friends, etc., your community. And community is very important in African culture.
Yeah.
And so, when our forefathers were, struggling it out in the mines, trying to liberate ourselves, working on matompas, being garden boys and domestic workers, and so forth, there was no time for us to go back to that because we were literally in a time of crisis. We were trying to survive from hand to mouth, and sometimes from hand to other hand. We wouldn't even have a bite of it ourselves. We think about our parents. And so now that things, in my opinion, have simmered, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination we're sitting in a utopia right now, but things are different now. We have a little bit more prosperity. We're a little bit more, there isn't a apartheid government is trying to oppress us on a daily basis. Some would say the current government is apartheid-esque, but that's a different conversation altogether. That I think what our ancestors, because they didn't just disappear. They just knew that the time wasn't opportune. And in my opinion, now there's a resurgence because we're trying to heal. We're trying to get back to the family structure where we have Udenisani, for instance, coming in at Twase, and not to be a healer, but to heal the family, to be able to commune with people who either died terribly in apartheid and their bodies have not been found, or their spirits are lingering on the earth without any direction because they were killed in massacres like Ipoy Patong and Sophia Town. And so I think the resurgence and the popularity is becoming more and more families are being called, and the young ones in the family obviously being called to come and undo all the stuff that's happened. My second point is some of them are not real because unfortunately ubungoma as and most spiritual vocations, if you have, are not premised on some sort of academic prerequisite, right? We don't say, okay, you need to have a undergrad for you to get your honors, then you have to get your honors to get your masters, and you earn your stripes, as it were. Even umuntu ohlala esitradweni onganakhaya, who's completely poor, ompofu, can have the calling and be very, very strong and good at it and be amazing at it. But the issue is that now there's also economic indicators, currency that's been involved. So even abantu who don't have the gift know that you can't say to me, no, you're not good at this, you're lying. Because I can say to you, Dr. Kwabe, where's your degree? And you can say, here's my paperwork to prove that independently Sakwa and everyone else think I'm worthy to be bestowed with my doctorate. But ngobungoma, it's like I can say tomorrow, and Ukoko at you must give me 50% of your salary because I'm here to help you, right? For everyone.
Witchcraft?
Well, I believe so, because what you're doing is you're exploiting people who are in need, and using that for your own benefit. You're no different to a con artist. But that's the point, that you don't have to have any skill apart from the gift. Okay. And I mean skill, I don't mean like academic, I mean like it's everyone can be called, and that's the issue and the benefit. It's almost a double-edged sword. That the benefit is that you don't need to be a professor to get called to be Sangoma or Kobela, but at the same time, there's no real qualification apart from the gift. So that's why I think it's problematic that we have this resurgence, because for every one person who's genuine, there's 3 or 4 who aren't, because there's money involved. I mean, Hlahluba can be anywhere between 100 Rand to 1,000 Rand. All right. But now let's talk about why sometimes it is required that you will have someone come up to you and speak to you about things that are happening in your family. As I said to you earlier on, the community is hard. Mom had to work in the Eastern Cape, dad had to work in KZN, you are stuck with Gogo in the Northwest. And so the family was scattered, okay? And you don't know your gift because you don't even know kahle kahle ukuthi abakantanzi obani, abakamalike obani, abakamatsebe obani, because you grew up with your mom, dad had to work, maybe there was a divorce, things are very problematic and you lose the lineage. And so banzima ukuthi they can talk to you because you haven't actually been reared in the customs of our people, of your people. So thina masithwasa, the whole point of ukuthwasa is to open you up and allow you to get to varying frequencies where you can channel spirits. Your own family members can come through you to speak to your family, but you too can also channel other people's spirits. If I see that you are in need and there's a spirit that needs to come through and I'm the only portal available, they will make themselves available and I have to be that person. That's why I say it goes back to that whole humility thing again. You realize you're doing it for more than yourself. You're doing it for a greater good. I recently had someone who's now a client of mine in that respect, ubungoma, who knows my partner and ended up little Puma, little Fulukulmanam. And I'm like, but I don't know you. We're not even related. And like, well, I trust you because my client trusts my partner. Therefore, Amadlozi know who to go to, because in the absence of anyone else, they need to get the most proximate person, and I happen to be that person who's proximate. And finally, snake oil salesman will always be there. It's easy for them to do it. And because of social media and other things, it looks like people, when things go rough, go Twasa, and some of them have to. But many of them don't have to, because we also have made Uktasa this archetype of going to Kobela, staying there for a year, Twasumdawa Umguni, Lozasekaya, is profita, and then you leave there. Where most people can be tossed at home. Most people trust through their dreams. You can heal through your dreams. I often make fun of you and say, Guti, when ubungoma bakho is because you work with plants every day. You literally are the biggest sangoma around. It's just that you have a doctorate to back it up.
You remind me of a friend of mine. I hope he says this. Usizwe. We were friends when we were in primary school. We were very young. And I think about 6-7 years ago, he said to me, I think this was just before, after I got my master's, he said, things are starting to make sense now. You are always saying weird things, looking at trees, saying, look at how beautiful this tree is. And you would stand and you would look at it. I don't know what that was about, but they would say such things.
But
you say it jokingly in the same manner that it did as well.
Yeah. Oh, because I think our gifts align to who we are. I think, and that's why I know it's divine. I know it's of us as human beings, because the excitement I feel when I get up on stage and I'm about to speak to people is I can't put it into words. And I've got many words and I can't put it into words. In the same way, I'm pretty sure when you're faced with your sector of work and it's just you and it and you're grappling with it and the questions that occupy your mind, and I mean, also think, I don't know what you're doing, it's boring. And you'd be like, but can you not see this? Can you not see the magic and the wonder? And I think that's, again, going back to this wonderful thing of humanity and this magic, right? That it must be God or whoever you call or you pray to, that must have given us this thing, this electricity, this excitement when things that make our hearts sing are around us.
Wow. I've learned over the years to appreciate izinto. I take this as a practice, yesintu. I don't like to isolate it and say ubungoma nje alone, but I've learned to appreciate isn't the Sintu, because you can't have anything yesintu without involving abaphansi, and ubungoma is what connects us with abaphansi kakhulu, I would argue.
I agree.
I want to ask though, why is it so expensive?
Again, unregulated markets. I think it's unregulated because people know Uguti. Bayazi Uguti, there's no one who will say Uguti, my way. You know, when I pulled past it was seen to be fairly pricey for the work that was done. And also, what are people willing to pay for? You know, like, isn't the old capitalist saying that the price of something, the value of something is how much someone is willing to pay for it. And I think that they know they can call a number out because mawuhamba uya kwisangoma uyothwasa noma uyoconsult usukugula phela usukuphethwe into ekufikisekileyo. I have never met umuntu who is living in the lap of luxury, who's got everything they want, who's completely fulfilled, who goes into the sangoma. It's someone who's troubled. And it's why I've often said, Uguti, I know we've got the Traditional Healers Council and who's meant to guide us in how we do our pricing and things and to make sure that we're sort of regulated. But I've said that this thing of, lawyers have a contingency-free act, which says to us that if you come to me as someone who doesn't have means to pay for my legal services, I'm able to take a quarter, up to 25% of whatever the quantum of the damages is, or whatever the cost will be at the end of if you win, If you win a case, I get 25% of the prize money. So it means that I'm working for free up until then. And there's a big chance that I might not get the money because I could lose, right?
Yeah.
So it's why you get these what we call ambulance chasers, these people who chase the ambulance all the way to the hospital when you've been in an accident because they want that RAF money. Because if you don't have money, I'll say fine, I'll take 25%. And I've been wanting for us to have something like that, where we have some sort of contingency fee that if you're not well and you're ill and you can't find work, because I'm not that we allow Isangoma to work with you and we defer the payment because it's become very economic, and that's my big worry.
And I find that to be very unfair, especially if somebody seriously has to go through that process. Which leads me to the question though, how do you know that you are the chosen one? I've told you, Uguti, I've had situations where people approach me and they say, you need to do 1, 2, and 3. And luckily, abati, I need to pass and whatnot. And to anybody that watches this, I'm seriously not gonna do that. I hope abantu bazokuthatha my chance and say, you're twice and not, please. How do you know that you're the one, Lee?
I think there's a certain and I don't think you know fully that you're the one. I think you're and part of the humility of learning ubungoma and going through the process is to remind you, Guti, you are here of service, ne? So you're here to help. Number one. Number two, this is a thankless job, and usually you won't make money out of it. Like you really won't. Those who make money out of it are usually the ones who practice the dark arts because there's a market for them. But I didn't know I was a chosen one until I started looking objectively at the things that were happening around me. Mina, I've always been a very meticulous person from an organizational point of view. I like to know where my things are. They give me comfort, and as a result, they make it easy for me to navigate the world. One year we had to go to the cemetery for one reason or another to go see all the people who are buried in this particular cemetery for whatever reason. And the person who had understood and known where all the family members were laid, Nagapis, and she just refused to come help us out for this very important ritual we had to perform. And I just got annoyed by it. And so I decided to say, well, I mean, I'm pretty smart, I can figure it out. And I did it. And we went through and we found the people and and I've never forgotten it since. And then I've learned itagazo Sekai, both sides. And then I've never forgotten them since. And I have a very innate understanding of when we should pasla. And, things come to me that way. But they've always done that. I just never knew that they were directional, that there was stuff that had to be done. And because of that, when I started looking back, I'm like, actually, those things weren't by mistake. Those things weren't things that were happening to me. There were things that I was definitely involved in. I was part of this experience, You call it deja vu, you call it having a dream, you call it having a mind touch. You go, you know what happened? I just randomly thought about Jabulani Namhlanje. Let me call him in to find out something is happening there. So it's so deep, I think. I think it's so deep that we need to be a bit more accommodating and understanding, which this is not a money-making scheme, but you really are called to be a police officer, a teacher, and really help families get their lives together.
You're making me think now. Let's take dreams as our case, as our example. So back in 2015, I think that was one of the most interesting years of my life. I was doing my last year diploma back in Durban. And I remember before my foster sister passed away, I dreamt about it. There was a dark cloud hanging over my family. And I don't know which event came before the other, but I think it was about 2 months in between. I dreamt of my mother relocating. She wasn't relocating, but she had her stuff being moved, her furniture, the entire furniture being moved. She was going back home. And a week after I had that dream, there was a gas explosion in the house. She and my sister were in the house, and they had to. I think they moved to another house next to where they were staying. So does this then mean that whenever I get such indicators, I need to raise my eyebrow and say, "Hey, maybe there is seriously something happening. Maybe there is a gogo who's trying to talk to me and be like, Yibawash, because
I think that you we all have a sixth sense. I think that, and I often think that the sixth sense is sponsored. So it's not something that you're born with it, but it's also people who are talking to you all the time. Abasekaya who are saying to you, "Yazintolo and namhlanje," and we call it Murphy's Law, we call it the burnt toast theory, as you're about to leave, you've made a piece of toast you have in the car and you've burnt it, and now you have to clean and throw the toast away, and you're now 2 minutes late. And then you find out there was a car accident on the highway that you would have been at, just before. I don't think a raise an eyebrow. I think it is part of being connected and being interconnected with your spirits, your guides, yourself, your community, your family, that you're able to feel something is not right. I often have to explain to people, Uguti, what we don't realize is that we have the human condition in the human body, and human existence is so completely complicated that there's things that we even to date can't explain scientifically. And you and I are both men of science, right? Where you go, I don't feel okay today. I'm having a bad day. Things aren't going right. How can you have a bad day? How can every single thing in the world conspire to make your existence uncomfortable on this one day out of 7 billion people on this planet? But it happens where you go, just nothing is going right today. And that's because I believe that, again, it's the whole polarity of energies that you're constantly receiving information and giving out information, how you think, how you walk, how you talk, how you interact with people. I made the example about you that you remind me of a kid so often because you have a very curious disposition, right? Like you are very curious about things. And that is also part of that magic, right? Like how we want to understand and know things, and that yearning that means that we receive certain information. Um, when you wake up and say, I'm gonna have a really good day today. Wow, it's gonna be a great day. I'm expecting to get a phone call from whoever. And most times the day goes pretty well because you're just like, oh, y'all don't know what's gonna happen at 10 o'clock. I'm gonna get a phone call from someone who I'm anticipating to have a chat with. And everything just seems amazing. That's because you've decided to make it that way. You've willed into the universe this warmth. So when you do get that information, it unsettles you. It means do something about it. Call someone, find out what's going on. Um, be connected, connect, and figure it out. So yes, you should raise an eyebrow because the world is talking to you all the time.
That's very interesting. I was chatting to a friend of mine earlier. Shout out to the friend. I know he's gonna watch.
And
And I was just saying to him, I find it very easy for me to sit and listen to people.
yes.
Over the years, people come to me and they would start venting, and they would say, I find it easy to talk to you. And it's even better than when I go to a therapist. I know you don't say much, but I just talk, and your single word response just I sort of like get healed, you know.
Mm.
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to overthink it, but I've gotten such comments from people,
Mm.
and again, I'm thinking now whether it's something that I need to again raise an eyebrow
Well, I mean,
about, or if it's something that just
the first thing I think you need to interrogate is when people are talking to you at that point, what are you saying? What are you doing? Are you sitting there going, oh, not again?
I can answer that. I can answer that. I literally wear the person's shoes. Uh, I literally internalize what it is that they give me, and then it sucks the hell out of me. But
Yes.
I find relief in seeing that Lee feels better than when they came to talk to me. It's worse when I go to a mall. I don't talk to people. When I go to spaces where there's people, and I think this is one of the reasons why I can't go to clubs. When I go to a mall, rest assured, I will return and I will sleep. I will want to have coffee if I have to work. It just drains me. People's energies
Yes.
drain me by their mere presence. I don't know what happens.
It's because people are carrying light and darkness in them. People are going through things. And because you are gifted in some way or another, you are able to receive those gifts and carry them on their behalf. Also hold space. People, we don't realize how much we sometimes hold space. I always say it's so interesting that in Black African culture, we didn't know what we were doing, right? There was no words for what we were doing in the English sense, but we knew it needed to be done. Like when you find out that someone has passed away or there's been a death in a family somewhere, we all go, right? We go ubahlalisa, to sit with them,
Mm,
to make it better, but to just sit in silence in a community and say, you are not alone in this moment. I can't make it better. I can't take the pain from you, but nizokhlalisa.
mm,
Well, the first thing, and you've heard your mom say this all, finding your veil, I must go and go show face. I must go and appear as part of a community because, and you say, but mom, I went, my sister went, our cousin went, you don't have to go. The family's been representing. They go, no, I need to go. Uthi nyovela, because we realize just how much space we hold and how much we keep each other. And unfortunately, in a mall, it's like a congregation of all these people and people who need space to be held, who need love, who need having going through a bad hour, bad half day, and you're going in there
mm,
and incredibly porous. Yes, Mawuthwasa, the worst thing you can do is go into a mall during the process because you are so porous that every energy shift you feel. because you're new, you're like a brand new white sheet that's just been
mm,
opened up, been let out into the world, and people are walking past, touching it, and leaving bits of themselves on it, and you just can't take it because I once cried buying onions at Boulder's Mall in Midrand um, because I just couldn't take it. There were just so many people around me, and I burst out into tears. Um, so it's because you are somewhat holding space for them, in my opinion, that allows you to be easy to speak to.
mm. Wow. Um, I had a very interesting experience when I was still lecturing at the University of the Free State. This one student, a huge auditorium. Uhlezi laphaya, I'm facilitating a lecture, and she just burst into tears and she screamed like a loud scream. So when I asked what's going on, well, she left. She left the venue, and I stepped outside and asked what's going on, and she said to me, "There's a scary man that's standing next to you, and
Mm-hmm.
he's Uyangtusa, you know." That scared the hell out of me. I didn't know whether to laugh or what, but I was like,
I mean, it
"Hey,
must have been
girl,
bewildering.
please." Yeah?
It must have been bewildering.
Hi. I don't want to hear such things, man.
But unakhohlwa futhi ukuthi we're operating with so especially like things like lecture halls. I'm so always aware about like people come into spaces not alone but with lots of people, right? And sometimes those people like they just run around and they clash with us and whatever. And you also don't know why sometimes you're protected from things, you know. Um, when I was in DOS venue, a particular person who I was close to at the time said to me, "Wuti, they saw a tall figure standing next to me, who was dressed quite immaculately." I'm like, well, I mean, that must have been my granddaddy because, you know, my mom's dad was a man of style and whatever. And that's where I left it at. And only to find out months and months later that my father's dad, my grandpapa, was a man of incredible style. Like he was renowned to having changed his clothes 3 or 4 times a day.
Mm,
And and why he was following me around, I've never met him. He passed before I was born.
mm,
But it is so crazy for me that we are so closely incarnated. Like we look similar, we have the same body structure, and we have the same interests. But you don't realize how you
mm,
protect. Sometimes that spirit is just coming to check out what's going on. You know, are you good? Are you well looked after? The people in here, but I wasn't into I'm just gonna stand here and hold space
mm,
and just check until nothing comes your way.
mm,
And that's why I say Utamadlozi and our spiritual and our guides are not people who are removed from us, they're people who literally know how to look after us. They know what they
mm,
need. They know what the customs are of the people who are trying to hurt us. And that's why they need to then operate the same way. It's very hard to I keep saying if I was Takatu Muntu, mina bengathakathi Beyonce. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go get someone who's rich as you want, go for the people who have the real riches. Don't go for Mamnani who lives 2 houses down just because she built a double story with her pension money.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Go to Beyonce, go to Obama, you know. But because again, Lento Yakona, my magic and what she's protected by don't match. Anton?
Mm,
So it'll always fall flat because we're not playing in the same spectrum, as it were.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Wow. Um, Another question. It's a follow-up actually, to that one that I asked before. How do you know if you're the chosen one? Now, assuming that Lee has told me as Q, Uguti Q, this is something that you should now do because you are gifted in this particular way. Assuming that all the right channels are followed and yes, you are isangoma, you are supposed to be isangoma, but then you choose not to do it. What happened?
I always think that there's so many people who force you into doing things because they like fearmonger. I think that you need to talk to your people. I think the big part of the whole situation. So I'll give you an example. When I was in Doswini, and at the time I was working in radio still, I was having to go to radio back and forth. And you remember we stacked up with the beads, eh? We're stacked up, we beaded up all the way. And many of the beads you wear you can't take off. But I had to, because at the time we were still managing how we were going to deal with me being out of the public eye for what, 6 months, and also trying to make sure that we introduce my spiritual journey when I'm ready, because at the time lots of people were doing it as well. And I went to them and I said, listen, the job I have is this, and me wearing these things at work will not work. So can we have an agreement that I'll take them with me in the car? They'll always be in the car with me. They'll always be around me. They'll always be on my person, but I just won't wear them all the time. I just won't be able to wear them on camera or whatever. And nothing has come of it. In fact, even to date, I don't need to, even when I'm doing my things, it's just one or two because I've spoken to them. So I really believe you chat to your people and say, listen, give me some time, or can I do it in a different way? Like, I'm mortified of snakes. And part of the reason why I was very reluctant to go and do endorse of any sort, because I always thought that snakes were part of the equation. I'm happy to find out, at least in my journey, that snakes didn't feature in any way. But again, I don't think I'm out was the aqua trying to freak you out and scare you or kill you, because it would be unfair.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, you've just reminded me of one of the things I've always asked myself. Uguti, why do they actually have to wait until somebody is well off? They wait until you settle in your career, and then boom, all of a Sunday you have to go your twasa or your pasha. Why don't they just do it when you are doing your matric or straight after your matric? Why is it a
Well,
thing that one has to be at a certain level before it happens?
I
I know
think
it's not always the case, but it often happens.
I think it might just a confirmation of your bias that you see it that way. The yellow Mercedes theory, wherever once you buy a yellow Mercedes, you see lots of yellow Mercedes everywhere. I
Mm,
think that they will call you when they think you are ready. I think sometimes they are very, very impatient because there's things that have to be done in the family. I've often lamented when they make umntwana who was in high school or even primary school to find out twice, because the journey is very emotionally taxing and the child is still here to develop. It's just unfair for them to, and they also can't take decisions whether to say yes or no. Um, so
mm,
I often get very mad at that. But people say you die, and then I don't think so. I think you chat to your people and you let them know this is how it's gonna work, because I'm living this life. This is my life to live. Okay. Um, and if you're gonna take away my money, my wealth, my prosperity, then how are we gonna make it work? I often say,
mm,
man, for me to do all of this that you want me to do, I must do all of that. So the radio and
mm,
the TV and the writing and all that stuff needs to be done for me to be able to have the means to be able to give you what you need. So you guys
mm,
better make sure money pops up on that side. So I'm able to do these things for the people who come here without a dime in hand, needing to be helped because you're feeding me in some way or another. So
mm,
I don't think it's because of being prosperous per se. I think that sometimes what they also do, which I experience, is that they'll give you like a bit of a like a glance at something really good. So they'll give you like everything you've ever wanted, like the car, the house, the wife, whatever, and show you what happens when you listen and you do well. And then they'll take away as quickly to say, but I'm into an or you in. Um, so I don't think it's necessarily about where you are in life financially. I think it's where you are in life when you think you are
But
invincible.
but Lee, how do you say now, this is me doing the right thing? Because I feel like there's different paths that one can take.
Yeah.
Maybe umtandazi, I don't know what umtandazi is called.
Right.
A person that prays. Maybe you heal through prayer. Maybe isangoma as you know it, or inyanga, or I don't know what else is there. So how do you know that this is what I'm called for? Because I feel like that's one of the most confusing things ever. You just don't
I
know Wuti yona.
I don't think so. I think if we were to take it to academia for a moment, you did
Mm.
what, 6, 7 subjects in high school? Let's say 8. And of those 8 subjects, there are a trillion careers you could have gone down. So how did you know that going into your field of study was the right field to go in, considering what you had? And it's because there are also other factors.
Gambling.
Hmm?
It's gambling.
You really are. But there's also affinity, right? And what people don't understand is that moya wisangoma, noma uyofemba, noma uya kumthandazi, nani nani. There's also prescriptive ways or prescriptive things you're doing. So I'll help you out here. Um, I always say with moya twasag curriculum, right? There's a curriculum. And in this curriculum, we are learning about certain things in the curriculum. We have Kunisani who needs to learn about ubungoma, as in using the bones, understanding the herbs, healing in that way. And there's someone who comes from that sort of like SADC region that includes like Zimbabwe, Mali, where we speak a mixture of Shona and Kiswahili and all of that. And they have a certain way of working with things as well. And that's why you have them, Umdao, the spirit of Umdawa is usually from there. And even the way Umdawa speaks in a combination of that language. Yakhumbula ukuthi Umnguni is from the Nguni tribe, so usually Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele in some form. And so Twasa, we usually Twasa Umdawa Nomnguni together in the same way that you have to do maths and English, right? And then depending on where we are in the world, depending on the affinity, on your predisposition, on your history, on a genealogy, you'll be able to pick out Utimina. I'm a person who comes from Zimbabwe. So I'm not Nguni per se in the way that you are from the Eastern Cape. So Mina, my masters would be in Umdao, as opposed to your masters that is in Umgun, right?
Mm.
And then you'll find someone who, like me, who is partially Lesotho, and so idlos lam lasekhaya mina lase Lesotho. So although I've learned about Umdao, Nomguni, I also have gone through the Lesotho process. And then
Mm.
it's profit that we put on top because it's almost to complete the understanding of how you use God and that power to be able to heal on a daily basis, including candles, iwasho,
Mm.
prayer, amanzi, and then mina as umgunya, I use herbs, bones, nokudonsa ngekhanda, and then we all have our strengths. So my point is, you don't have to choose because in the same way you were able to choose a career, you're able to choose a car, you were able to choose a house, a place to live. All those things are informed by more than just the data. You look at like
Mm.
things around it to make this decision more palatable and make sense.
Mm. Okay, thanks. I want to shift a bit from ubungoma alone. I want to introduce the concept of love.
Okay.
But I guess I'll bring back abaphansi now.
Yes.
If ungumuntu onobungoma, I want us to marry the two. I hear because I've got friends who are gifted, spiritually gifted in that way, and they always tell me similar to what you just said now. Uti, they would give you things and then they would take them back. How I interpret that is that babantu abafuna attention, they love attention, they love to be appreciated, they're envious also. So my friends would tell me that amadlozi, awafuni nani. They are very jealous of you guys. And Patiso Amaqanda for starters. And secondly, when it comes to relationships, ooh, manomona, they just can't keep up with you with spiritually gifted people having partners because I was focused at Bona. Your attention is going to be split in between, and you are likely to be more attracted to your partner than them. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that correctly, but I think you
You
get the
are
gist of
very
what I'm trying to say.
No, you really are articulating it well. My theory has always been that Amal Rosagini will never bring you someone who doesn't understand your work and where you're coming from and this gift that you have because it's a very intrusive gift. I'll give you a very explicit example, but I'll try to be, gracious about it. Lots of work that we do require us to be pure, which means that sometimes when I'm having clients coming over tomorrow or the day after, I must abstain from sex for a while. It could be a week, it could be a month even, or even longer, depending on what they say they need me to do for the magnitude of the work that has been supplied for me to do. And that means that a partner must understand, which this is part of who I am. And I therefore need to do it as if, it is part of who I am. And I don't think they would ever give you someone who wouldn't understand that because they also realize that umsebenzi wakho requires you to have support. But also we need you to have someone who is right for you to do this. I was asked by Puloa Puma, when am I getting married and having children because they want a offspring from me. And I told them quite emphatically, it ain't gonna happen. Because obviously I'm in a same-sex relationship and having children is not something, not a function of just, going to bed and waking up pregnant. My point is, they are jealous, but as I said earlier on, as we chat to them and we say to them, listen, this is what we're doing, this is who I am, this is who you're buying into. So this is either you get, this is how much I can give you. And this is how much you need to then allow me leeway. So with a partner, the partner would have to understand. And you also need to make sure Uti, you introduce amadlozi into your partner. I don't believe in it has to always be a big ceremony and ritual. I believe in just pasha and tell them Uti, but badala, when you guys see ubhuti othizeni, usisi othizeni ekhona la ekhaya, nimbona hamba la endlini ehlenyuka, nazi uze by my invitation asiyisitha umuntu esimthandayo. And they must then work out.
I've got a question then.
Yes.
Do you take your partner to your chambers where you pray?
Yeah, mine knows everything. I think also because it's just it makes sense for them to be aware. Because also remember in our profession, ebungomeni at least, because of the foul play and what you were saying about love potions, sometimes umuntu is not sure if you are playing dirty or you yourself are stupid or whatever. And I think that transparency is the best way to do it by saying, this is where I do my things. These are the things I'm doing. You're more than welcome to sit and watch. And you must be comfortable seeing me in this state. It's like you're a lecturer, your partner must be able to be comfortable. There'll be times where you'd have to be online at 10 o'clock at night and teaching, and they would need to be comfortable that there's certain things you guys can't do because, for instance, you can't go to the south of France in the middle of May because your students are writing, so south of France will happen in June.
It's actually
My point
happening,
is,
but carry on.
yes, Monte Carlo. But I truly believe ukuthi fanele you must endear them to understand the world that they're in. And chances are they already know about it because your people won't allow you, in my opinion, to have umuntu who will corrupt their work. So it'll be an impediment. So they'll bring you someone who'll be alive to how it works and understand it with he's in his ndumba right now. I can't disturb him. He'll only be eating papa namanzi for the next 2 days. That's not punishment. It's what he needs to do for his ancestors and his connectivity. And chances are they themselves will be spiritually gifted.
Interesting. Ooh, can we not talk about spiritually gifted partners? I don't want to go there. I've got a story, but I don't think I'm ready to share it with anybody. I now want to know, Lee. You're a very successful youngster. I believe you're still in your 20s. You've achieved you've achieved quite a lot. You've walked quite a mile. Young days, in your youth days, because I know you are still part of the youth. You are younger than 30. You've achieved quite a lot. But then there is this side of you, which is so beautiful, ubungoma. How has it changed your way of being? How has the journey been like for you?
Oh, one of the Kobelas I trained under was is a very successful businesswoman, and her daughter and I went to school together. And she had a wonderful way of explaining it. And she said, Uti, what we often think is that we're living these two lives, right? There's like this duality that's going on. But it's actually one life, right? It's one life. You go home and you become a son. And when you leave, your mom and dad's house to go to your friend's house, you become a friend instantly. And sometimes you are a friend and a son and a nephew in one room at the same time.
Yeah.
And I really have taken that to heart to say that this is not a version of myself, it's just a part of myself I have going on at any given point. And so when I get into a room while I'm doing work, I bring that all with me. I'm never leaving it behind. It's always in the room with me. It's a part of me. It's a part of me as, you know, wearing glasses are part of you. Going to gym is a part of me or whatever it is. So, yeah, it's been very interesting to have to learn to navigate it all at once because unfortunately people in our industry and in the world in general don't understand that you can be more than one thing. You can both walk and talk at the same time. And they think that you must either be, Pokemon walking barefoot, um, and you can't hold down a job in popular media or whatever.
Okay. Let's take it back to the bedroom now. Ange Angithi Lee, abantu bethu izithunywa amadlozi wethu sihamba nawo. Yes, they can see us wherever we are. Correct. I need you
Correct.
to say yes if
Correct.
I'm talking sense. What happens when you are doing the sacred service in the bedroom? How do you then say, Lalelani, can you just face the other way?
Yeah. They better face the other way because I'm busy. They better face the other way. I'm busy. I don't think Amadozagini don't realize that you're human. I think they allow you to be yourself, and I think they excuse themselves most times. I also think that's why um they I think they only intervene when it's detrimental to you. So let's say Wuti, like you're dating someone who is inherently bad for you, or you're dating too many people, or you're being intimate with too many people, and it might corrupt their gift and their ability to, do the work that they need to do through you. But I had a story of someone who it was lapuma while they were doing the deed with the person, and it was but it was also because that person had avoided and evaded hearing the truth they were trying to tell to him. And the partner was like, well, because you like this thing, ngizokubamba usaphethela into leyo, and bambamba, and the message was translated and transmitted.
Damn. Damn. Oh, damn. Okay. I don't know, Wuti, if that were to happen to me, or if it were to happen to my partner, while we are busy doing the deed, I think I would just go nuts. I don't know.
But the other side of it is understanding or team. Some of the spirits that come through, and remember, tomatoes were humans, and some of the things that come through is that some of them are very sexually active. The same way some of them are very like into liquor, like they like drinking and smoking and. And as a result, it is for me not surprised that you'll find Uti Zangoma do engage very frequently in sexual activity, more like than another human being would in the same circumstances, and that they consume a lot more alcohol. They imbibe a lot more of the indulgences because Mkuloko used to smoke, Ukokoko used to drink, your brother used to be a smoker, and all these people are all living here in the body. And for me to almost appease all of them, I must almost, indulge in their vices, which is very interesting for someone who like is vegan, for instance, or like me who doesn't take sugar.
Okay. Masturbation.
Yeah.
What's the relationship between this kind of a gift and us masturbating if we are gifted? Male children like masturbating and whatnot. I've heard stories. I asked this question because I've heard stories about masturbating when you're a person of idlozi, and I want to find out how true that is. I think these theories that just flail around in the streets about masturbation, nedlozi.
I must tell you, this is the one corner of the world I know nothing about. I am not an expert. I'm just giving my anecdotal evidence. But on top, so I don't know about the relationship between the two. I really haven't studied it or heard of anything of the sort. But I will tell you that one of the things, because while you're doing your training, there's deep abstinence, and usually abstinence is fine if you can relieve yourself.
Okay.
However, the idea that I came to understand was we practice abstinence because even the want to release and have some sort of orgasmic pleasure is a distraction from why you are here. You are here to learn and be pure and humble, and you can't be humble when you're thinking of big booty Judy and big muscle Mike, that corrupts the things that can take center place in your mind, in my opinion. So I don't know what do they say about masturbation, Kunisani? Patin.
Let's
Oh,
let's not go into that. It's the same thing with having sex before you do certain activities relating to
yeah,
ubungoma.
yeah. I've come
They
to
would say
understand.
Wuti with sorry, they would say Wuti with masturbation particularly, it blocks your blessings. Because these are people that hold blessings for you, as I understand iyonke ndisikhuluma ngayo baphethe ibusiso for wena, and if you now indulge in that kind of activity, which is in this case masturbation, you are creating a barrier because it's not acceptable to them.
I think that what we misunderstand or take for granted is that izinto seem to have a function rooted in more than just it's not arbitrary. Okay. So, for instance, I really understand why the sex connection part is definitely discouraged, because when you are trying to understand this brand new world, the last thing you need is to be indulging again. Because remember, even in our training, we monitor very strictly what we eat. We monitor how long and how we sleep and where we sleep and the type of sleep that we have. Um, We're very aware of how the foods we consume because certain foods are aphrodisiacs. And what they do is that they make me look at my fellow man, my fellow woman who I'm in the Ndumba with here to train, and now start having lustful feelings for them because we're not born of the same house. Even though we are spiritual siblings, you, Denisani, when I see you as a human being, remember we're having the conversation about being in the flesh and in the spirit. When we're in the flesh, we're looking at each other and going, yes, Mara, Usis Banbani has a nice body, Uput Banban has a nice body. And also because of how close you guys are in what you do, day to day, you know, you're very close in body, you guys see each other in very compromising situations. It is just, we try to discourage you wanting to indulge because it does corrupt that period. Again, I said to you, Wuti, how porous you are at that time, that even being in a shopping mall, you know, you're absorbing so many energies. What more if you're absorbing energies umuntu othwasa naye, who themselves have many, many issues they're bringing home that have led them to be in this room with you?
Wow. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for that, Lee. And if you were to give me a take-home message, put aside love now. If you were to give me a take-home message on matters of spirituality, particularly ubungoma, what would you say to me, to somebody who is as curious as I am out there?
That so much of it has been mystified and made to seem as if we are going into, you know, the pits of hell and something to be survived, as opposed to be something that has to be nurtured and, um, uh, um, you know, you need to grow it and give it all the love and nurturing it needs. I want to say to you early on that what I've come to understand is that every single thing in the practice of ubungoma is there for a beautiful um, outcome. You know, uthi umuntu imoshile, it has been corrupted by people because people unfortunately corrupt everything they touch. Think about the idea yokuthi fanele sikhuphule idlozi. We are teaching you how to raise yourself in such a way that you get to a frequency where you can dial in and out at will to speak with the people of your ancestry. How beautiful is that? You know, that means you can never lose people. You can never lose your mom, your dad to death because for you, you're able to tap in and communicate and commune with them. That's a beautiful thing. You're able to bring healing to people by having them get closure. You're able to, you know, undo generational curses and get people's finances right and kids going to school and ailments going right. That can only be a beautiful thing. And so why do we then vilify the training? Because yes, a lot of it has to be shrouded in secrecy, and it's done so because we're trying to make sure that the things that you're not conversant with, or people you're not things you're not familiar with, don't deter you from taking your gift. You know, you preach, for instance, all the time about the wonders of having a cold shower. And Dustin, guess how we shower? Cold and early in the morning. You know what I mean? And you already know the benefits of that. I'm not saying you trust Aksasa, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
even
Why you think Sasa? Why not Fruity? I'm not saying go to your Twasa. Why do you think
your
Sasa
trust
said
at
I'm gonna go the
all.
next
I mean,
day?
I don't know. But my point is that so many things we thought, oh wow, they really try to punish us. Can't we have a warm shower at 3 in the morning? But we also remember we're not having much sleep. So we need to give you a shake up so that your body can really. And they go, why are they not making us sleep through? We need to sleep. We're tired. We're like, no. The body, when it gets to a point where it's so tired and it releases itself and allows things to happen to it, that's when dreams and visions come through. So we need to get you to the point where you're really tired or you're really exhausted and it's really sleepy. So when you close your eyes, a dream can come to you. You know, one of the things that we have in Dwaswin is a wonderful yeza that is a slight hallucinogen and it's there to allow you to just release those inhibitions, right? It doesn't have any alcoholic properties, but it's so wonderful to see how people come back afterwards going, I've had revelations, I've seen Ilozlami, I've seen where they've hidden Inyongoyami. Everything was clear for a moment because in normal life, we hold ourselves from even saying words like "I love you" or "I'm sorry." What more when you have to let the Rosie come out and tell Kunisano to actually, Kokwako wants you to have 4 girls as wives.
Why do you have to take that? Why not just dream naturally without having anything?
Well, the whole idea is that I think we're teaching you, Pastor, we're teaching you to elevate yourself from, me and you are speaking at like level 2 right now, right? Which we're in this world. We're not using our third eye. We can see each other in the metaphysical. And so what they do is they almost make it go further another level. So where you can really let yourself go so far enough that you're able to understand and hear the music, and hear the thoughts. Because remember, you come in as a doctor who've got 40 students in one lecture hall who need their scripts marked, who need all these things done. You don't even have time to relax and really take it all in and make sense of it. And this forces you to do so. So, yeah, it helps.
Okay. Thanks. And one last question, silly question. We've got a lot of sangomas. We see them on our social media streets. And they carry snakes. Some of them call themselves Coco X and Coco Y. I'm not going to mention them. Are you scared of those people? Because I'm sure you guys stand for different things.
No. Firstly, I realize that they do the work that they do because there's a market. And so I'm not mad at you for doing the job that you do. In the same way, I don't judge anyone. I do think that there has to be a trade-off, that you can't be okay living like that. Inflicting pain, giving trauma and heartache. In the same way, when I was in practice as an attorney and I did my criminal law rotation, I've always been very clear that I don't think people realize that defense attorneys who go in there to go defend people who've been accused of the most heinous crimes, are fulfilling a function. They need to do so because the justice system requires them to be there to represent their client, to hold the state to account, to make sure that they represent their client, being us. So, yeah, I think YOLO.
Leroy Mark, my good friend, thank you very much. I think this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much for your wisdom. It's always a pleasure interacting with you. I love picking your brain and I love how you just align your thoughts. It's so beautiful to witness. And I think I am privileged to have this interaction with you on a daily basis. And I'm hoping that by virtue of you being here, you are now a friend of the Chronicles. And whenever we send an invite, you are going to say, hey, I am available and I'm going to share a bit of my wisdom.
Very, very privileged to be on the platform. I've been watching, as you know, and I've been pestering you about coming on. But I think more than anything, there is something to be said about Black boys who are going out there and making meaningful contributions as an example, but also in the conversations that we're having. I think we must not discount the fact that you, as the human being that you are, being a young individual who's severely educated and is spreading the wings and spreading this gospel of talking and conversating and picking each other's brains and, adding to the discourse. It's so important. I think it's superlatively important. I think we don't talk enough as a country. I don't think we don't talk enough about things that occupy our minds at 4 o'clock in the morning. We need more of these. And I'm severely grateful to you for, one, taking the time and the resources to make it happen, but more importantly, lending your staggering brain power to add into a conversation that I think we need to constantly be having. And I look forward to the next conversations. And yes, I'm a friend, so you can call me.